Hi everyone. Today we're going to be doing our first Soma Math Vids STEM Professional Series segment. STEM stands for Science, Technology, Engineering, and Math. Most of the careers in the 21st century actually are going to be related to STEM in some way. So it's great that you're going to be getting some exposure to different careers through these little videos. In our first video, we're going to actually be interviewing Mr. James Matthew. He's one of my good friends from high school, and I also went to college with him at Temple University. Currently, he's at Ross Medical School in the Caribbean islands, and we're going to actually, ask him a few questions. Welcome, James. Thanks for coming to the show. All the questions I'm going to ask are actually generated by my high school students. Some of the students indicated that they had interest in careers in medicine, so I'm really glad I have this opportunity to interview you today.
Thanks for having me here today.
No problem. The first question that we have for you is what age did you decide that you had an interest in medicine and why do you want to study medicine?
Oh, that's actually a great question. I started to consider medicine when I was 17 years old, as a junior in high school. During this time, I actually had the opportunity to go to Dominican Republic as part of a mission trip for my church. And during my time there, we had the opportunity to provide basic medical care. This trip was a eye-opening experience for me because it showed me how limited medical care was in Dominican Republic, and this was a stark contrast to the United States, where medical care is abundant. And this actually inspired me to pursue medicine because it showed me that I could have a positive influence in the world by providing basic medical care to impoverished people around the world.
Our second question for you today are what factors help keep you motivated in medical school?
That's actually a very important question. Personally speaking, the four factors that keep me motivated is my passion for medicine, my faith, my family, and my friends. Medical school is a very arduous process. It requires constant studying, and it's easy to feel a lack of motivation. So, whenever I feel a lack of motivation, I recall my passion for medicine, why I entered, and knowing that I could help underprivileged people once I graduate from medical school, it inspires me to continue studying. And also being in the Caribbean, so far away from family and friends, it's important to be in constant communication with your family and your friends, which will help you stay motivated as well.
Question's a little personal, but we want you to be as honest as you can. Have you ever failed in any academic setting, whether it be high school, college, or medical school? And what did you do to overcome those challenges?
Unfortunately, I did struggle during my academic career. For example, during my undergrad, I did find certain biology courses challenging, so therefore I performed poorly. But I just want to point out it's okay to struggle, but the most important thing is never to quit. And I learned from my mistakes, and I retook those classes, and I performed better. And there are certain points where I thought my dream of becoming a doctor wasn't going to happen, but I focused on my passion. And I looked into different ways that I could pursue my medical education. And one of the ways that I found was actually to pursue it through Caribbean Medical School, which is currently what I'm doing.
Now, our next question, because you've mentioned it a few times, is directly linked to the difference between Caribbean and regular U.S. medical schools.
Okay, there are a few key differences between Caribbean and medical school. Mainly, the people that go to Caribbean medical school are individuals that couldn't get into the American medical school because either the GPA was too low or the MCAT wasn't within the range that most medical schools here would want it to be. So basically, with Caribbean medical schools, you usually do your basic sciences in the Caribbean. I actually attend Ross University, so the island that I'm currently on is called Dominica. So I'm there for 16 months. Then I come back and I do my core rotations here in the United States, in Florida or in New York. And then I apply for residency, just like the medical students here. There are some additional examinations that we do need to take to get certification, and also because we went outside of the United States, there's an increased pressure on us to perform better on certain exams, especially the step one to obtain residency, which is the end goal of all medical students.
In relation to those experiences that you had in Dominica, we want to know, how did you acclimate to that new environment?
It was actually a tough process, especially during first semester, having to get used to a whole new country, and also the medical school experience itself. Going to a new country, you would have to get used to a whole different type of environment, living arrangements, food, making new friends, and on top of that, the stress of medical school itself. One of the most important personality traits that you need to portray is actually patience, because it doesn't getting acclimated doesn't come overnight. It actually takes time, and with patience, you gradually get accustomed to your environment, and you'll become used to performing in these new conditions.
Can you just talk a little bit about the cost of medical schools in Dominica? Also, if you have any information comparing that to medical schools in the United States, what's the difference in prices?
Well, medical school in general is quite expensive. Attending Ross University, I pay about $30,000 a semester for my tuition, and comparing to U.S. medical schools, it is generally a little lower when you factor in living arrangements. But that does have some drawbacks because living in the Caribbean, there are some challenges that you have to face, such as running out of electricity. Not always having water available, not having the food name brands that you're accustomed to, and but overall, over 4 years, I would say the average cost of medical school would be around $150,000 to $200,000. But that's just a rough estimate on my part. There are different ways to finance your medical education. Currently, I applied through FAFSA, and they provide me various loans such as Graduate Plus. And for those who aren't aware of FAFSA, FAFSA is actually a federal aid program that provides loans for students that plan on going to college.
The next question we have is, what type of specialty do you think you're going to do after you complete your medical school training? And what factors go into that decision?
Well, there's a lot of factors that go into deciding what your specialty will be because this will be your career. So some of the factors will be what are you passionate about during your medical school experience. What interested you, whether it be endocrine, whether it be renal, and that could help. That could be a motivating factor. And also, some people like to be active. So those people would tend to lean towards emergency medicine, for example. Personally speaking, I do like to be hands-on. So one of the fields that I'm interested in is emergency medicine. I also like to work with kids. So pediatrics would also be another viable option. But it's premature to state what field that I would like to go into right now because I don't really have exposure to these fields, which would come later during my rotations. So after that, I would have a better idea.
Now, one of the things we were wondering is, if you didn't go into medicine, what would you be doing? And are there any influencing figures that would lead you to this decision?
If I didn't go into medicine, I would be a history teacher. And the reason for this is when I was in high school, I actually had a really good high school history teacher named Mr. Frank. And during my time in his class, he actually prepared me for college. And he introduced history in a unique way that I found to be interesting.
What advice do you have for a high school student who's interested in actually going to medical school one day?
Well, to get into the medical field, it requires dedication and a lot of hard work. So the most important thing is your undergrad experience. During your 4 years of undergrad, it's important to maintain a very good GPA, 3.5 or higher, and also a MCAT score that's competitive. So 30 or higher will help you in getting admission to a medical school in the U.S. And also, it's important to be well-rounded. So it's important to engage in extracurricular activities, whether it be community outreach or in being involved in your campus clubs.
So this concludes our interview with Mr. Matthew, the second year medical student. I just want to say thanks again for taking out your time to speak to us. I think the advice that you shared is really important. It's really interesting to see how you overcame some of those obstacles. And again, we look forward to hearing from you in about 2 years when you finish medical school.
Thank you for giving me this opportunity to share my medical school experience with you. I hope that I was of help to you. And if you have any more questions, you could contact me through the email address that I'll be giving to your teacher. And I wish you all great success in your academic year, and thank you for watching this video.